Department. Rita, we have a warrant for your arrest.
Like millions of other Russians, Alexander Solzhenitsyn experienced the irreversible injury of being arrested in a midnight raid by agents of the Soviet secret police. With the eloquence that was uniquely his, Solzhenitsyn described the soul-shattering experience of being transformed in an instant from an individual into an item of property claimed by the state. Wrote Solzhenitsyn, "Each of us is a center of the universe, and that universe is shattered when they hiss at you, 'You are under arrest.' At what exact point should one resist? When one's belt is taken away? When one is ordered to face into a corner? When one crosses the threshold of one's home?"
Rita, open up the door.
Last and final warning, open the door, I'm going to kick it in.
The state's apparatus of repression depends upon the submissiveness, indeed, the active cooperation of its victims. Where it meets no resistance, the state will expand the compass of its coercion until it has destroyed civil society entirely. In its place is found a population divided between convicted prisoners and potential suspects, and those who belong to the latter group are acutely aware of the fact that what temporary and qualified freedoms they enjoy can be exercised only through the grace of those who presume to rule them.
Sheriff's office!
Sheriff's office.
Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands!
Keep your
Get
hands
down on the ground! Get down on the
Get down on
ground!
the ground. Keep your hands out of the blanket.
Get down on the ground!
Can I get dressed? Please, can I get dressed?
Hold on a second.
Can I get dressed?
Unless resistance is made immediately at the point where the state's agents exercise criminal violence against the innocent, official repression will relentlessly metastasize. This principle gave rise to Solzhenitsyn's famous lamentation describing how the Russian people were complicit in their own oppression, and how we burned in the camps later thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive? Or if during the periods of mass arrests, as for example in Leningrad, where they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, paling with terror at every bang on the downstairs door and at every step on the staircase, but had understood that they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up an ambush of half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. The security organs would very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we didn't love freedom enough. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterward. Too many Americans cling to the fervent and misguided belief that they enjoy some happy immunity to the horrors that descended on Soviet Russia. Yet every day in this supposedly free country, state agents clad in body armor and equipped with weapons of war conduct raids against residences under cover of darkness, kicking down doors and forcing terrorized occupants to the ground. Almost without exception, the targets are people suspected of non-violent offenses, generally involving the government's prohibitions against the use of some mind-altering substances. On many occasions, those raids are staged without legitimate probable cause, and with increasing frequency they are carried out at the wrong address. Sandpoint, Idaho resident Rita Hutchens wasn't the target of a SWAT raid, but she was the victim of the proverbial midnight knock by police who would come to drag her out of her home. Rita is a tiny woman in her mid-50s who has never harmed another human being. She moved to Sandpoint from New York decades ago in the hope that she would find a refuge from violence, corruption, and other social pathologies that are commonplace in larger cities. She is also an artisan, an internationally respected quilt artist. Before January 2011, Rita had never experienced any trouble with the police. Since that time, she has been assaulted, imprisoned, terrorized by an unconstitutional midnight police raid, financially ruined, libeled by the local media, and left homeless for a brief period. Her troubles began when she was assaulted by a police officer who tried to cover up that crime by unlawfully arresting the victim. Those troubles escalated after Rita filed a lawsuit against the city of Sandpoint and its police department, an action that led directly to the resignation of the chief of police. Rather than making restitution for the injuries Rita had suffered, the Sandpoint municipal government and the Bonner County Prosecutor's Office engaged in a campaign of official retaliation and persecution. Just like the officer who assaulted Rita, the city and county government were determined to turn the victim into an offender, in this case, by accusing her of battering a city clerk with a ballpoint pen. Rita wasn't accused of wielding the pen like a dagger, but rather of throwing it at a countertop and hitting the clerk with the ricochet.